Yes, I'd like to introduce the brand new Network Group podcast where we're going around and talking to members how we add value as a group to the membership. So I'm joined today by Andrew from CARA Technology.
Yeah.
I was going to say CARA IT, CARA Technology. So we're just going to cover things. We're just going to cover kind of, I guess, how you started.
Yeah.
What made you want to be an MSP. We've known each other for a while.
Yeah.
And we've worked on a few projects. We've been into a few sessions together, and so but yeah, for the purpose of kind of the people at home, if you will, give us a heads up. Kind of where did it start? Yeah,
well, it was a few years ago. So it was 1991. I had a wonderful job, and the company that I worked for went bust. They'd made a couple of really poor acquisitions. Bought a company in Scotland and a company in London, and basically lost a lot of money as a result of that. And I woke up one morning to find myself out of a job. And I really loved, at the time I felt I had the best job in the world. This is 1991. I was earning 24 grand. I had a really, really good company car. It was just, I just felt I got 8 drawers, And then to wake up one morning and realise it wasn't there anymore was a difficult thing. They had a receiver call, came in, and we had a conversation with them. I had a conversation with at the time I think we had about 100 clients on service agreements. And in those days, service agreements, clients used to pay up front for 12 months rather than a monthly.
Yeah, they're like a block hours almost. So you were doing a similar thing then. You were managing.
It wasn't block hours. It was a service agreement in the same way that we run it today. The only difference was that you paid annually in advance.
Yeah.
So the trouble that we'd had, if you take it as an average, those clients on average would have paid for 6 months, and all of a sudden the company that they'd paid had disappeared.
Yeah.
So we had a conversation with them, and we said, look, if you guarantee that you'll renew on renewal, we'll cover the agreement until it's, so we invested 6 months of that contract base, and every single one of them said yes.
Really?
And that's
ready-made.
Yeah, ready-made customer base. We never wanted, or I never wanted to run my own business. That wasn't the motivation. It was I just loved what we did, and found myself out of a job one day.
Do you know what? I think some of the best businesses that I see are kind of people who've been forced into that situation almost. But I don't think they know the value of how probably valued you as a kind of business leader, but you never really thought yourself as that. But obviously being pushed into that position, then you either got to do it and you've got to make a.
And neither myself nor Tony, my business partner, ever thought of ourselves as business leaders. And I think we were both at the coalface delivering, very heavily technical.
Yeah.
Neither of us were in sales, and literally. We realised that day one of us had to be customer facing and going out and having that conversation. My business partner was Spanish, and he played that card and said, look, you can communicate better than I can.
Right.
So it was like it ended in my lap, and it wasn't my skill set. I was at the time I certified Novell sort of architect, I was a server guy. I worked with technology, not with people, and that was a very quick learning thing. And I like people, and I like having conversations, so it wasn't a challenge, but I felt very nervous initially in that environment.
Yeah, I bet. So is that 32 years ago?
Well, 33 years ago. So we will be 33 years old in September.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And what are the challenges then? So like a 33-year-old business goes through a lot. And sometimes I don't know whether it's just me that thinks this or whether it is a genuine thing. Like if you're a butcher or a baker and you're like generational, and there's a lot of kind of people want to go to that because they've built this almost like heritage business. In IT, it's not like that, is it?
No.
So you kind of, you've got to be on the forefront of every conversation. You've got to be leading with like what we're talking about, AI, cyber, and all the rest of it. But how have you managed to do that over the years then? Because that's not a that's a constant.
Yeah, you're right. It constantly evolves, and I think but there have been some milestones in our industry. I mean, the two big ones that I can think of, obviously the move away from on-prem was a big one. That we're still part of that revolution today.
I think some people are still wondering whether it's the right thing, the wrong thing.
Yeah,
and, then
and that question's almost like coming back on itself. But the big one for us as an industry was going into what we today call managed services. We used to be called IT companies. I think a more appropriate term would have been to call ourselves the fire service, because we were constantly putting out fires. And you know, to move away from that reactive scenario whereby you were literally waiting for the day that your biggest customer called to tell you that the server had gone down, to a scenario where you were putting a lot of energy and effort into making sure it didn't go down, that was a game changer. That to me was probably the biggest change that we had in our business, and it was transformational for us.
And a lot of people in the channel, so a lot of guys did a similar thing, I guess, but we're kind of more focused on break fix. So they were used to going out and repairing PCs, and you know, that's how they got into the industry. And that again, there's a lot of people talk about that change, and because it's almost, this is completely what you're used to doing, and this is where you should be, and it's almost like going from a petrol to an electric car. I don't have to go to a petrol station anymore, but you have to think about other things as well. So I'm not going to ask you how long you've been a member of the group, but I am going to ask you about the value of kind of what the group brings to you. In terms of like on a personal sense, I know we've spent many nights at the bar, we've been at kind of sessions where we've worked on our businesses, but then also from like a business value point of view, kind of what are the immediate benefits that you get from being a member?
Completely opposite that I thought they were going to be. So I think day one, there was almost like, when I was introduced to the concept of it, there was almost this idea of the buying group and the savings that you get as a result. You know, strength in numbers. It's there on there, and you know, the idea that we would be paying less for hardware, we would be paying less for Autotask, and actually the savings that we would make from that would probably cover the membership. And in fact, to an extent it did, and continues to do so. But if that's all it did, I don't think it would be what it is. And for me, that's probably the smallest part. I mean, you mentioned earlier about the sessions that we had together in Worcester. Business can be a very, very lonely place, but being a business owner can be a very, very lonely place. And you and I have had that conversation. And to me, the thing about, we're in the same game, but we don't see ourselves as competing with each other. And obviously you and I don't, because we're in different geographies. But there are members in similar geographies to myself that I have this same conversation with. And we don't see each other as competitors. We just see each other as peers with similar challenges, and the willingness for people to help each other, or members to help each other in that to me is where the strength of this group is.
I remember going through almost like a mental mindset change where your competition, or your competition as such, are not necessarily your competition, and partnering and working with others, even if they are in the same industry, sharing ideas, sharing strengths. And often when you look around and you see businesses excel really quick, they're the ones that are leaning into kind of partnerships and community and all the rest of it. Whereas the ones that kind of close doors, I think often you find they do struggle or they don't get the benefits, I guess, from... No,
it's a very, very short-sighted, I mean, so my viewpoint on this sort of fear of competition is that if you look at our membership, if you took our potential client base and carved it up between us, we just wouldn't be anywhere near able to handle it. So, are we going to bump into each other? Are we going to find a potential client that's working with another? It could happen. And if it did, okay, maybe. But actually the benefit that you get, to me, really outweighs that threat.
Yeah, there's so much business. I think the group looks after, I think it's £250 million worth of spend within the IT, UK IT channel, UK and Ireland IT channel. But that, in terms of a number against
the total IT spend, is nothing. Yeah,
I think Mick Patel was telling me on Tuesday night. He says there's 18. I think, did he say 18,000 or 1,800 MSPs in the UK and Ireland?
Yeah.
And you think, geez, well, we're like 85, 90 of them, so I think we can afford to talk to ourselves.
We can,
and work with each other.
We don't need to be looking over our shoulders,
it's not
do
like,
we?
Yeah.
No, it's absolutely true.
So, give me then 3 things that that you're working through at the minute. I know we mentioned Halo. You're kind of moving PSA at the minute.
Yeah.
But kind of 3 main challenges that you're dealing with at the minute in the business.
So I guess I wouldn't say there were so much challenges in the sense that we're not able to deal with them, but the things that we have been working on that I think are making a big difference to our business. So for me personally, building a strong team. So we've appointed 3 directors from within inside the business over the last 12 months. We are doing, and we're investing an awful lot in training members of the team. We're aiming to have a high performing team. That's a significant goal for us, and we've put a huge amount of investment into that, and that is now starting to pay dividends. We're getting decisions made, good decisions made at all levels. We're having grown-up conversations. I know that sounds crazy for a business as old as we are.
What do they call it? OML, operational maturity level, or whatever. So you're kind of building through those levels of.
And just because we're 33 years old doesn't mean to say we're a mature business in terms of our output. And we certainly haven't been from an approach point of view. Probably for 25 of those business years, I could say we're almost a lifestyle business. And we're now having those grown-up conversations. So building a team has been a huge thing for us. The acquisition that I was telling you earlier, so acquiring another business that was on a different PSA tool, kind of accelerated the conversation about moving, because they'd also considered going to Halo as we had. So that was instrumental. That kind of came together really, really well. And then the other thing that we've done, not over the last 12 months, but certainly over the last 5 years, is we've started to set targets, which again, to most business owners, this will almost seem laughable that we've not done this before, but we haven't, because like I said, we were engineers.
Like business targets or KPIs for the team?
Both.
Or kind of,
Both. And, we did a 3-year plan when we took a business development manager in-house, and just having that plan in place and measuring the performance against it, I generally felt like it made it happen.
Yeah, I think if you're going without a plan, we're looking at Next Gen. We're bringing 2 new members of the team on that's going to sit on the sales side. Yeah. That's brand new to us, So like 11 staff we got to without hiring a sales guy, I guess. Yeah. Bringing those in without KPIs or without targets or without P&Ls to manage, or just seemed kind of like it wasn't achievable. So it's one thing that we've implemented as well just recently.
So that to me is, and we've grown last year 33%, 20% the year before, 17% the year before that. I don't think we'd have achieved that kind of growth without having targets and goals and measuring our performance against them.
Yeah. It rings true, actually. I think that a lot of the group are experiencing growth. Obviously, we introduced, you'll have probably seen today, I think they called it peers and tiers or something. So basically, like the peer groups, the board are big believers in peer groups and encouraging growth and talking about that. We did a session last year about the core values of what a member was, and the growth mindset was key from that. And how do you then drive that down into the membership and say, look, yes, you've got a growth mindset, but come on guys, let's come together and actually measure the growth, and let's see, so let's see if we can improve profitability, and let's see, and that all has a positive knock-on effect for everything. The group's seen as a more expanding space to be, and it's quite an attractive little kind of shiny thing for the magpies, which are the private equities and the mergers and acquisitions that are going on. So anyone who's looking to exit, it's almost a great space to be. Because you're not only growing the business, but then you're also learning kind of what the availabilities are, who's out there, if you're looking at exiting the business or you're looking at merging with another. There's a few members, Clifford and Lee have merged
together.
Kind of two completely different companies met at the group, I believe, and then just kind of created something.
And then there's been
really special
M&A inside the actual group as well. And it's interesting because we clearly see when we come into NG the technical advantages. So looking at the landscape in terms of products and solutions that we can lean into to deliver a better service, and that's immediately apparent. But actually these stronger conversations that sit behind that line of growth and exit strategy or acquisition or whatever, that you don't get to see that immediately, but it to me, again, that's equally as important as that technical conversation that you have.
Yeah, it's a weird space in it. I often sit there and think, well, I can't quit. So I'm like, I can't just decide tomorrow that I don't want to go into work. I mean, you could, I guess. And I'm not in that space, but sometimes I sit there and think, there is no option for business owners to quit. There's only options for us to either phase out or merge or actually drive into our game and do a better job that way. So keeping that attention on your business, on you, making sure you enjoy it, making sure you've kind of got a team, some peers to talk to, I find really important. We've been a member for as long as I can remember, but that's super important to me as well. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So we spoke a lot there. We've covered quite a bit. If there's people watching this kind of podcast, this footage, these clips, I'd obviously encourage them to reach out to the group. But if they want to speak to you, kind of where do you live? Where can they find you? I don't mean physically.
No, I get that. Yeah. No, I mean, look. First of all, I'm very happy to speak about my experiences within NG to anybody that wants to. I'm easily contactable through LinkedIn profile. They can ring the offices, or just meet me at an event. It's as simple as that.
Thanks, Andrew. Really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. Yeah, cracking.
Cheers.
All right.